The Penguin Lessons stars Steve Coogan, and it tells the story of an English teacher in 1976, Argentina, teaching in an English-style private school. And it tells the story of what happens when he finds an oil-slicked, half-dead penguin washed up on a beach. And in kind of caring for the penguin, he becomes changed.
It was an utterly charming, non-cliched, startling read for me. I was sent it by the producers, and I thought, really, a penguin? So I read it, and I think probably all of us have had something similar, which is that there's something about penguins. They hook us in, and they walk like us. I think penguins think human beings are big penguins because we stand upright, and penguins are never scared of humans. And so I was seduced. And there's a metaphor, just building on what Pete said. There's a metaphor which is that penguins have eyes either side of their head. They're not like us. They don't have like predator vision. They have side to side vision. So when a penguin is listening to you talking, he'll look at you with this eye, and then after a while he'll turn and look with that eye. And it gives the impression that he or she is really listening to you. And so the film, in a broader sense, is a metaphor for the fact that we don't listen to each other anymore.
Yeah, and Steve was and I think just to pick up on Jeff's thing about the source material, the book, I think it was what I like, the sort of precarious dynamic between a film with the penguin in it, which is always going to have a certain cute factor. The penguin's very watchable and very likeable. But the background of the story in 1976 Argentina, with what was going on with the military coup, coupled with the casting of Steve Coogan, I think just gives the film a great balance between a harder edge and some pathos and the definite softer, cute side of the penguin. And that really appealed to me, to just try and find that balance, which I think when it works in the movie is just a really thrilling tightrope between the kind of visual comedy and cute of the penguin and then the more serious side. Steve came aboard really through Jeff. Jeff was working on it, and they've worked together before, so that was the quick route to get Steve to have a look. And then that just really nailed it for me, feeling that there was someone with Steve's kind of comic chops, and he's got a great ironic humour, and that just felt like a great counterbalance to the more cute side of the penguin.
My character is Maria. She's one of the mothers of Plaza de Mayo. They used to be called the crazy ladies of the plaza, and they're still looking for their missing children, missing descendants. For me, it hits very close to home as an Argentinian, especially because I feel it still as a recent story, even though it dates back to 1976, but it is still current in Argentina. That's what struck me the most on the character, the fact that it's still living history in our country.
I'm from Uruguay. Both countries share the same tragedy. And for me, Sofia represents all the victims who weren't involved in the conflict. I think that was one of the most important things that made me want to play the role.
Yeah, well, I'm essentially there as the contrast to the penguin. I'm the non-cute figure in the film. And Timothy Buckle is, it's essential to the story because the school employs Steve, and he's just purely self-interested, and he exists in the middle of all the political turmoil. Doesn't do anything about it in the school until the penguin arrives and changes everything.
Well, yeah, that was the big draw, really, that it really happened, and that footage is on YouTube. And I think I saw that before I even read the book. And when you hear Tom Michel, the real Tom Michel, talk about the real Juan Salvador, it's not just a penguin to him. It's like this very particular, very smart, very empathetic, kind of magical animal, which came into everyone's lives and just sort of changed the place and was like a catalyst for connection and in that school at that time. And so, yeah, he still has a lot of kind of affection looking back. And it was really him finding that film, because it was actually not developed. The true story is he had a flood in his house when he was much later, when he was retired. And he had photographs of his time in Latin America and his time at St George's School, and they were all ruined in the flood. But the one thing that survived was this undeveloped film. He'd never even developed it, and then he put it through Super 8 film, put it through the processing, and bang, up came this memory of Juan Salvador, and then that was what inspired him to write a book about his time in Argentina. Another Steve Coogan and Jonathan Pryce movie with a penguin in 1976, Argentina. I mean, that's what I liked about the whole thing, was it just sounded, the whole thing is so fresh because it's true. You'd never come up with it. And there were certain things I know that Jeff and I discussed where it was a bit cumbersome for you have the true story, and then you want to make it a movie that works. You want to be true to the spirit of the true story. You can't be like absolutely true to every detail. But there were certain details like he has to go to Uruguay to find this penguin. Does he have to go to Uruguay? It's like they have to have this whole detour in the movie before he even finds the penguin. And we're like, well, that's the true story, and that's what makes the movie feel true as well, because it's that kind of detail that brings the reality to life.
In those little moments that you find the stuff that I'm after, which is the non-cliche, because you have a sort of set thing in your head. As soon as you say it's a penguin movie, you think it's going to be cute, and you think, there's going to be CGI, and the penguin will lay his head and maybe, stroke someone on the. But we didn't. All the stuff that you see, or 95% of it, there were some tiny little things where. There was maybe one or two things where we did a tiny cheat, but 95%, and certainly all the interaction with humans, it's a real penguin. And it's mostly this wonderful star penguin called Ricard. And I think by Peter doing that, by not cheating, then you get, you get lightning in a bottle. That we were talking, Vivian and I, there's a scene where her character's great-grandchildren get to see the penguin. Well, those two little actors were incredible when their faces, it's a real penguin. And they walk up to the penguin and Vivian says, you can stroke him. And then they can't believe it. So it was just a great decision, which I was hoping that's the way he'd take it from Peter, to just do it all real.
Yeah, with that particular scene, I said, I want to go full Ken Loach, and they've never, make sure these kids have never, when they come and they turn up, don't let them near all the penguins. I want them to be on a returning when they see a penguin for the first time. Producer's like, no, insurance protocols. They have to undergo a 4-hour penguin induction session for their own safety and for the safety of the penguins. So I was like, oh, okay. So they did their little meet the penguin session, but they still were enchanted when they saw it, and it was just like, shoot the kids before you shoot anything else in this scene, because they're going to be genuinely enchanted.